strength. That is the measurement we've just used. Maybe using a refractometer. Go up to 1.2. You take it across to your 60 grams a litre. So slightly weaker. You're going to look at different brew methods. You all know there's lots of different brew methods, but a lot of people who sit the course don't realise there's lots of different ways of making coffee. So we'll go through it. Basic principles, 6 essential elements, which some of you will be familiar with of coffee. Filter methods, different ways of filtering and the result in the drink and what you have to do to the brewed beverage to analyse it scientifically if you filter it differently. Brewing guidelines, principles of brewing and holding. Advanced filter brewing, this is where we start looking at the science of brewing and we actually start measuring coffee, so we can measure it on a chart and see different extraction rates and strength. Gold Cup standards, just talk about Gold Cup. Gold Cup actually, at the start when this course was developed, it was to produce quality coffee at site level. So everybody will go out and get an accreditation for Gold Cup coffee at a coffee shop. What we found is from the course is it gained more and more exposure for an education course. So people actually came to the course to learn about analysing coffee, not certifying sites. It's been like that since 2007, and there is kind of a movement now where people want to certify sites as Gold Cup coffee. Principal guidelines of holding and serving. So, very quickly, ignore the numbers below, we're just going to do a tasting cupping exercise. I just want you to taste A, B and C. We'll probably do it on 2 tables, we'll do 3 on E and 3 cups on there. Taste them, just tell us your preference. Do you prefer A, do you prefer B, or do you prefer B? Views on?
Yeah, it might have been dosing, different doses. So
yeah.
A used the least amount of coffee, while B used most amount of coffee, and C was somewhere in between.
Perfect, yeah. So this was 40 grams a litre, 75 grams a litre, 60 grams a litre. So what we find with C is it is more rounded, it's got more sweetness. B is a little bit heavy, and it hides the kind of the taste notes of the coffee. Many years. So it all started in 1952. If you are sitting the exam at the end, remember Dr. Lockhart, because he'll be on the exam. If you're sitting. So in 1952, Dr. E. Lockhart started basically conducting research on consumers. So they went out, they did different tasting exercises to establish what people preferred in strength, extraction, and came up with all the findings that we use today. It continued, 1964 the CBI closed, but it was also then replaced by the Coffee Brewing Centre. They continued to continue the research on consumer preference to again find out people's taste throughout the world on strength and extraction. 1975, CBC closed. You've all probably heard of the Norwegian Coffee Association opened their ECBC. ECBC obviously still practiced today using the same fundamentals that we use. The only difference is where they measure the temperature. We measure at the spray head, they measure in the coffee bed. That is the only difference. 75 they launched, sorry, in 83 they launched their Golden Coffee Kettle Award, which is looking at brewed coffee as a quality, which stems from all the research that was established in 52. So they're still brewing at the same standards. 1982, the SCAA, Specialty Coffee Association America, they launched their Golden Cup Award, which is based on the same findings that were found in 1952. 2007, the SCA launched their Gold Cup Award, Brewmaster course, which a lot of you will know, which again is based on the same findings that were found in 52. 2010, the SCA thought what was found in 1952 may have changed, because brewing technology, coffee processing, transportation, everything has changed since then when people actually carried out all of the consumer preference tasting. So we started off looking at extraction rates. We kept one strength and we brewed at 16, 18, 20, 22 and 24% extraction. Did blind tasting at around about, I think it was 7 different venues throughout the world to establish have things changed, do people like a wider extraction rate? And at the moment the results come back as people still prefer 18 to 22, which is encouraging that it's still the same standard. Yeah. Research has been taken out in 1952, still present today, and it all started with a gentleman called Dr. E. Lockhart. So, if we look at different brew methods, this is quite base today. I would ask that everyone brews at 60 grams a litre. At least then we're going to continue the same body in the cup, no matter what you're brewing on. You can obviously vary grind, contact time, but keep it 60 grams a litre. The SCA minimum is 50 grams a litre to hit gold cup, but if you brew at 50 grams a litre, you've got a very, very small margin of the box to hit to enable you to get that accreditation. What has recently changed is before we had the top of the box, but now we're taking the top off the box so you can brew as strong as you want. So you can go 60, 70, 80, 90 grams a litre if you feel. But today, stick at 60. Correct coffee grind, that matches the brew time. When you're doing single cup, 1 to 4 minutes would be your contact time for single cup. When you're brewing on the ICB, will be total contact time 4 to 6 minutes, and that will stay consistent no matter the volume. And then obviously espresso, I won't say what that is, you all have your own ways on that.
Maybe a dumb question, but when you have the ICB, let's say you make it with 50 grams, 4 minutes, you put in 1 kilo, or if possible, and is then the course more?
You'd have to have a certain flow rate, so what you'll find if you put a high coffee weight, your brew time might be 4 minutes, but your drip out time will be really long, so you might actually be 7 or 8 minutes. So your grind will allow you to dictate total brew time. 3 T's, you've obviously got contact time today. It'll be anywhere from 1 to 4 minutes if you're brewing on the ICB, 4 to 6. Temperature, we're going to be at 93 degrees stagnant on the brewer and on the boiler itself. The window's 92 to 96, and you should stay consistent through the brew cycle. If you're brewing for 4 minutes, it should be at 93 degrees for 4 minutes. Have you got a presentation? Do you want to copy the presentation? So yeah, so 92 to 96, but if you're obviously at a temperature, stay consistent through the temperature. Single cup's it's a little more challenging to keep a consistent temperature because if you're stage pouring, it is cooling as you pour. Turbulence, obviously when you're doing single cup today, your turbulence is a manual turbulence. Depending on how you pour it and the flow rate you're getting through will change the turbulence in the funnel. The more turbulence, the more extraction, the less turbulence, the less extraction. When we go into the ICB, we're going to play around with the pulse brew, so that allow the water to come on, lift the bed, and go off and sink the bed. So we're actually going to create a lot more turbulence using the ICB than you would with a manual method. Optimal brewing method, obviously if you select the right brewing method you're going to get the right results. There are a lot of places in London at the moment doing single cup but have actually stopped doing it in morning periods because they're too busy and put a batch brewer in place. Because when you've got a line of 30 people you can't take 4 or 5 minutes making a drink. You need to have the throughput faster. So that's where batch brewing comes into its own. It allows you to brew off great quality coffee consistently in 4 seconds.
So you batch brew?
Batch brew, yeah, like bulk brew, batch brew.
Okay.
So just larger volume, so you can brew 5 litres and then have it on standby to pour. Good quality water, there's a lot of debate going on at water at the moment, and it is a very interesting part of your drink because it obviously contains 98% of the drink. If your water's bad, the drink's going to be bad. I mean, any of you done any work on water?
Yeah, we just tested this morning demineralized water.
Okay. What are you running on at the moment? What have we got here? A Brita, okay. It's really interesting water. I mean, I won't go into it too detailed, but I've done some work recently on, people look at TDS, total dissolved solids, what is total in the water, say 400 parts per million. It's interesting when you actually nail it down and look what's within there, and it's like grains of hardness, and it's just mind-blowing because I've always thought that if you use very soft water, so if it's got very little minerals in it, over-extracts because it's hungry. But I've actually run a test with 3M, I don't know if you know 3M, they do filters, and we used completely softened water with no minerals in, and it massively under-extracted because it had no minerals to react with the coffee to allow it to brew. So it kind of went completely against what I thought. Did you have the same today?
Yeah.
It's flat, it's really flat because there's nothing there to allow it to react. So you need a certain amount of minerals to let the water react with the coffee, which is interesting when you start looking into it. At least I think so. An appropriate filtering method. There's lots and lots of ways of filtering. You're going to know lots of these and many more, but you've got a cloth, a cloth gives you a nice clean drink. You've got a metal filter which can be used in various different brew methods. If you're using a metal filter, what do we need to do?
Filter it again.
Filter it before testing it and cool it to room temperature. Paper filter, obviously nice clean paper filter will give you a clean drink. A pod will give you a clean drink because it's paper filter. A brew chamber will allow undissolved solids and oils through, so again we'll have to filter it. You will start brewing them and it will get a bit more exciting than this. Screen allows undissolved solids and oils through, so again we need to filter it and cool it to room temperature. If you don't cool it to room temperature on the devices for measuring, you have to recalibrate them. So if you can all cool it, and then obviously we'll have a consistent reading. Filter basket, again espresso, it's got undissolved solids and oils, so you need to cool it and filter it before testing.
Is the cooling only necessary when you have to filter it as well, or for example with the Bunn, do you have to cool it as well?
With any brewed coffee, if you want to analyse it using, say, a refractometer, because of the way it measures, if the sample's hot, obviously all of the molecules react differently. So if it's stable, it doesn't, and gives you a nice clean reading. That's why you cool it. If you're using a TDS meter, you have to cool it as well for a TDS meter. So no, it's not machine type, it's just straight across the board. Whenever you test coffee, you have to cool it. It doesn't take long because you only need a really small amount for a sample. So, you've probably all seen the graph, what is a perfect cup of coffee, but if you break it down, a perfect cup of coffee is 18 to 22% extraction. Have you all heard that before? Yeah? So you're taking 18 to 22% of the bean, you're going to extracting it in the water and putting it in the drink. The most you can pull out of coffee bean is roughly about 30%. There's nothing else left in there that you can dissolve into the water. So about 30%. And ironically, it's the same as an orange. If you take an orange and squeeze it, the most you can get out of an orange is 30%. When you put that in the drink, it's 1 to 1.5% of the drink. So it's a very small amount of the drink. That's very funny coloured water, but 98.5 to 99% of the drink is water. If your water's bad, your drink's going to be bad. If your water's got peat in it or some odours, your drink's going to be bad again. So it's important that no matter where you are, and all places in the UK where I'm from, they say I've got great water, I don't need to filter. Well, actually you do, because it may have other things in there, not just hardness. You know, you're going to Scotland, it's got a lot of peat in there, so you want to take that away as well.
What's peat?
Soil. It's got a lot of soil in the water. So, we're going to taste 3 stages of the brew cycle. The curved line, which you can see up and down, is basically the good flavours coming out of the extraction. Have any of you ever tasted a brew broken down in filter? I'm sure you've all done it in espresso when you've done the 3 shots. It's a similar exercise but with filter. So what we're going to do is taste the first stage, which is all the high solids, the best flavour, least bitterness. The average solubles in the centre, which is the least acid, and then the low solids, low pH, which is the most bitterness and astringent tastes. We're going to taste each one of them independently, and then I'm going to talk to you about what's extracted through each section as well.
Brew divided, you would say that the first one is overdosed, the second one is correctly dosed, and the other one is underdosed.
Okay, so the breakdown is losing body.
Yeah.
Yeah. What the last one, does that taste quite dry? I haven't tasted them yet. Yeah. It's quite a dry feeling, astringency coming through. So what you guys can taste now, I'll come over to that with the table in a second. So what I've done now, if you all taste that one, I've mixed stage 1 and stage 2, which should give us a perfectly rounded cup of coffee. So that should taste like as we had to see earlier. So all of you taste that.